Have we seen this before? Is this deja vu? Like, I feel like I've seen this before.
Nobody likes. Ray's walking away. Draymond's away. Guys say stuff. You don't go back and then go tee a guy up and toss him. They're not near each other. They're not in each other's face.
All right. Stop me if you heard this before. Draymond Green gets ejected from a basketball game for disrespecting either a coach, a teammate, a player, or a referee. When is this gonna stop? Like, the dude is a menace. Like, that's why I call him Draymond Goon, because he's a goon. Like, he's out there just terrorizing people. Like, now he done cussed out a referee and got kicked out of a game within the first couple minutes of the actual game. Like, every game is important for the Warriors, and he's a key component to what they do. So if he's gonna be getting kicked out for stuff like this, like, what has changed? Like, he went to therapy and went to get help, but if you don't take the help seriously, then what is the help really doing? Like, it's just, filling your time and your obligation so you can come back to the court and just basically do the same things you were doing before. Like, it's ridiculous. Even his coach, Steve Kerr, came out and said, he deserved what he got. He deserved to get kicked out of the game. Like, what has a head coach ever said that? Like, I grew up watching Dennis Rodman, Lonzo Mourning, Rasheed Wallace, Larry Johnson, like all these players who were hot-tempered, and when they went off, their coach always had their back. Like, well, he was justified, or he had his reasons, and they just don't speak on it. But Steve Kerr came out and said, yo, he deserved that. Like, he deserved what he got. Like, this is crazy to me. Like, how much are they gonna let Draymond Goon get away with? Choking players out, stomping players out, kicking dudes in the nuts, choking them out, like hitting his own teammate, cussing out coaches, cussing out the other players, the opposing player. Like, they seem like they just let him get away with everything, and I just don't understand why. Like, I just don't get it. Like, he's a winner. Like, he's proven that he can win games, and he factors into him. But as many games as he wins, he also costs his team those same amount of games. Like, he ran Kevin Durant out of town. Like, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry would have been an awesome duo to watch for years and years to come. The Splash Brothers out there with Durant, Poole. If Poole would have stayed instead of getting socked in his jaw and deciding to leave, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, like, it would have been such a fun team to watch. But just nobody wants to play with Draymond Green. Like, I just don't get why he continues to get these passes. Like, he's a good player. Like, check this out.
And this is a great job of just timing that.
And then he gets the ball.
And gets the rebound, keeps the ball in play as well. That is.
His value is off the charts. Here he's got it, shot clock at 6, making a move into Hardaway. Draymond Green. It's an 8-point lead and an 8-0.
He factors into winning games. Like, that was a game-winning play. Like, a block and a layup at the other end, playing against a really good Dallas Mavericks teams. Like, that was a game-winning play. Like, he factors into it, and he does really well. But at the same time, just a few nights ago, he clotheslined Patty Mills along the baseline. In the same game in Dallas, he fouled the hell out of Luka, and Luka was looking at him like he was crazy. Like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, he's playing like, it's not even street ball. It's like when I was in school and sometimes the football players would come out and play with the basketball players. This is what he reminds me of, a football player. Like, at this point, he's making the NBA look bad. They suspend him, they fine him, they do everything they can do to try and discipline him. And he goes to counseling, he talks to people, but if you don't take the counseling seriously, then what good is the counseling doing? You're just wasting everybody's time. And I feel like he's definitely wasting everybody's time, because he comes back from these suspensions and these counseling sessions, and he's still the same guy. Like, his explanation, let's do his explanation of what happened.
If I'm all the way honest with y'all, I kind of was trying to turn my body and angle and go to the bench, and I said what I said like a little too soon before angling my body to the bench.
I was trying to turn my body away, but I said it too soon. Like, that's not the point, Draymond. Like, the point is, you don't say these things to other human beings. Like, in your moment of frustration and competition, whatever, just don't go there. You can be frustrated and cuss and spit and do whatever, but to just openly disrespect somebody for making a call against you isn't how you handle business. Like, I feel like these are things and concepts that counselors and counseling sessions should be talking about. Like, I'm not, educated in that field. I don't have any degrees in that, but I just feel like that's something they should talk about and discuss and get a hold on, rather than him coming out and doing the same exact thing, and then him looking in his interview or in his podcast like, it's not that big a deal. Like, I'm making good progress and this is just a bump in the road and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, this is the same stuff that you were doing before. You're still doing it. Like, it's still a problem. That's why I feel like his head coach is not in support of him anymore. He's not backing him up. He's just like, this is just who this guy is. This is what he does. Draymond Goon. Doc Rivers. 14 losses already. Did y'all know that Adrian Griffin, the coach that he replaced, had 13 losses? He was 30-13 when they decided to replace him. Right now, Doc is 15-14 since he's taken over that team. Like, this is a horrible decision by Milwaukee. I'm not saying Adrian Griffin was the better coach, but to not give your coach more than 50, 60, 70, a full season to get the team together and just fire him and switch him out for Doc Rivers mid-season, I don't think was a good idea. Like, they're struggling now, and Doc Rivers, like, he has a pretty good resume, but if you really look closely at the resume, he only has one championship. He's lost a lot of games with a lot of good teams, like the Clippers teams come to mind when they had all that talent and they couldn't get over the hump because Doc Rivers just doesn't make adjustments. Or the Orlando Magic had a solid team and they couldn't do it back in the day because Doc Rivers, again, just doesn't make solid adjustments. The Boston Celtics were a good team. They got him his ring. They got a championship, but they probably should have had more than one. But I just don't feel like he makes the proper adjustments in his coaching. Like, his coaching style isn't really like that. So I don't understand this move, and I blame this move on the talent, on the players. Like, Giannis Antetokounmpo came out, it expressed frustration with Adrian Griffin, and Milwaukee Bucks, they're such in a position where they have to cater to this guy that they're just like, look, we need to do something, so let's just get rid of him real quick mid-season and bring in Doc Rivers and think everything is going to magically change. Like, this is the problem. Like, players don't need to be dictating personnel decisions. Like, that's not what they do. You're a player, you stay on the court, you do what you do on the court. Let us do our job out here. Like, they're so eager to please Giannis so he stays that they're willing to just do whatever he wants to do. Two prime examples are, one, of course, Giannis, his brother, on the roster. Like, his brother should not be on an NBA roster. The fact that he's on this roster, just sitting on the bench, like being an ultimate cheerleader and an ultimate practice player according to Dame Lillard, is a damn shame. Like, there's a whole bunch of players in the G League and just out there as free agents that could have a better impact with that position than Thaddeus does sitting on the bench. And the only reason he's there is because it's Giannis' older brother, and Giannis wants him there. So of course Milwaukee has to bow down and do exactly what Giannis wants to do. And then you got the Dame Lillard situation. Like, Dame came to Milwaukee, Giannis re-signed. They knew that if they made any type of move, that they would get Giannis to resign. So they kind of won that. Dame is going to leave Milwaukee. Please believe me, Dame is out. Like, Dame is sitting at home in Milwaukee. He was even been on record saying he's bored as hell sitting at home all the time, watching wrestling and movies and stuff because there's nothing to do in Milwaukee. He just divorced his wife. He's a single guy now. He doesn't want to be sitting at home in Milwaukee doing nothing. He wants to be out, doing what single guys do. So Miami is calling his name. But I just think Giannis needs to kind of pull back and just focus on what's going on the court rather than trying to dictate what personnel decisions they're making as far as coaching goes, because this move to fire Adrian Griffin and bring in Doc Rivers hasn't worked out. The NCAA tournament Final Four, let's go! Excited about it. Been watching it from front to back. This is the first time I've watched the tournament from front to back. Like, normal times I'm usually kind of in and out. I was tuning in around the Elite 8, Sweet 16 maybe, but I watched the whole tournament this time and I've learned a lot, to be honest, especially on the men's side. There's a lot of players I had no idea were out there that are really good players. And in another pod, I'm going to talk about the draft and the lottery picks and players coming out the NCAA tournament who are entering the NBA draft and just how weak the draft is this season. But that's another story for another day. All right, well, let's talk about the Final Four. We got South Carolina, we got NC State, we got Iowa, we got UConn. South Carolina, they're the dominant team. Like, they're the alpha. Like, I feel like they're gonna win it all. Like, they dominate their matchups in the Elite 8. Like, there's no real reason to talk about that. Like, Oregon State gave it a good run, but South Carolina is just that team. NC State played a tough game against Texas. They kind of showed Texas that they're, kind of a young team, and they kind of dominated just like I kind of thought they would. Texas State shot horribly from the field that particular game. Like, they really didn't come out focused. I don't know any other way to put it. Like, they just really got outmatched by NC State. And then you had UConn beat up on USC. Again, USC is another young team, but they're going to be back. Like, Juju Juju showed up, like she did her thing, and like I feel like they're gonna be back. UConn was just a better team this year. You know, Paige Beckers is a really nice player on the court. Like she doesn't waste a lot of motion. She always makes the right play, always takes the right shot, and she plays defense. I really liked her playing on Juju. Like she really stepped up and, you know, owned that matchup. So I really like UConn. I like what they did. And then you got the main event. You got Iowa, you got LSU. Now that was a good game to watch. LSU, Iowa, that was the main event, and Iowa prevailed. Iowa did its thing. Caitlin Clark, of course, showed up and showed out. She had plenty of help with Kate Martin, Gabby Marshall. Like they definitely played good games as well. But Caitlin Clark was the star of the show. But really, one thing that bothered me about that game was LSU and their coaching. Kim Mulkey is a terrible basketball coach. Like she is terrible. Her whole game plan coming into this game, I think, was just not sound. It wasn't solid. She even had a pre-game where she basically said, like, there's not a lot of strategy. We just got to guard her. Nobody else seems to be able to guard her. We didn't even guard her last year when we beat them. This is wrong. Like, you guys actually did guard her last year. She had 30 points, but she shot a terrible percentage from the field. She put up 19 threes, which is, you know, pretty much bail out sometime when you just toss up a 3-point shot because you can't get through the defense. And she had 6 turnovers. I feel like they did a good job. And the reason why they did a good job last year is because they had Alexis Morris. Alexis Morris had 21 points that game, shot a solid percentage from the field, and she put pressure on Caitlin Clark to play on both sides of the court. That's how you beat any great player, is that you make them play offense and you also make them play defense, most importantly. And that's what they didn't do in this particular matchup. Hailey Van Lith got a lot of blame on social media for the defense that she was playing on Caitlin Clark, and it just showed me how many people don't watch basketball and don't really understand what they're watching. It was the coaching. Like, they came out in that game going under on the screens and having a center drop back on the pick and rolls. You're just giving Caitlin Clark the lane to shoot and do whatever she wants to do. This is not good coaching. They didn't do that last season when they played Iowa. Alexis Morris was up in Caitlin Clark's mug. She made it difficult for her to play, made it difficult for her to breathe. Hailey Van Lith didn't do that. Poa didn't do that. Like, they were going underneath on the screens and just letting Caitlin Clark kind of see the basket and do what she needed to do. Like, I think this was bad coaching on her part. And again, Van Lith getting the blame for this, that wasn't her fault. Like, you know, she came from Louisville when she averaged damn near 20 points a game, got 15 to 20 shots per game. Like, she's a productive offensive player, but didn't get a chance to show. But Kim Mulkey thought, let's just throw the ball down low and give Angel Reese and Anisha Morrow chances to, you know, make plays on the basket instead of actually playing a sound offensive game, putting pressure on the team's best player on both sides of the court, making Caitlin Clark play defense. That's what they didn't do. So watching this next round, what Gino does in UConn, like, Paige Buckers is going to go at Caitlin Clark. Whoever Caitlin Clark is guarding, they're going to be put pressure on her on the defense end to make her play on both sides of the court. Kim did not do that. Kim was a terrible coach. Matter of fact, The Athletic put out a survey, and they surveyed a whole bunch of players, basically asking them what coach they would not want to play for in the NCAA, and Kim Mulkey got 32 votes. Second place got 9 votes. 32 players said they would not want to play against her. So it's not just me. Like, she's a bad coach. Like, she doesn't do any coaching. Like, instead of actually coaching players up, like you see coaches like Don Staley do, whenever a player makes a play to the coach, she might sub her out, but has a good conversation with her, kind of lets her know what's going on and how to be better. Kim just pulls Van Lith out of the game and just lets her sit there for a while and lets her sulk in it. And it makes Van Lith scared to play. She's scared to make plays because she knows she's just going to get pulled if she makes any type of mistake. Like, that's not good coaching, in my opinion. That's not good, you know, mentorship when it comes to, you know, building up these young players to be the best they can be. And Kim doesn't do that. So I'm just not a fan of Kim Mulkey. Like, I just don't think she did a good job in this matchup. So I just, you know, I didn't like it. Like, it was bothering me the whole entire game watching her coach. Like, I found myself watching her and not watching the game because I'm watching her and how she reacts to her players. And she just wasn't good with her players. I didn't enjoy that at all. In the Final Four, we got South Carolina and NC State. I like South Carolina. I feel like they're gonna, you know, dominate that matchup. And then you got another main event, Iowa versus UConn. That's a really good game to watch. I like UConn. I like Paige Buckers. I like that team. I like the coach, Gino. Like, he really knows how to, get the best out of his players. So I feel like, UConn's going to do his thing. I think Paige Buckers is going to dominate that matchup. Like, I like Caitlin. Caitlin's going to definitely make some plays, but I definitely like Paige Buckers. I like what she does. I like, like I said, she doesn't waste any motion. She doesn't make bad passes. She doesn't make bad plays. Like, she plays a very perfect, close to perfect as you can get basketball games. So I like what she does. And Caitlin Clark is good. Like, I would not be surprised if Iowa pulled it out and Caitlin Clark dominated. Like, I would not be surprised at that at all. But, I like what UConn brings. And then you got the national championship game, South Carolina playing against most likely UConn. Whoever they play, they're going to dominate. Like, South Carolina is just too deep of a team. Like, their bench could be a starting five on some other teams, some other schools. So, South Carolina is just too deep, too strong, too big. They're well coached. Like, they have everything you want for a team to be a dominant team. So I feel like South Carolina is going to definitely do its thing. As far as the men's side, you can Final Four, you got Purdue, you got NC State, UConn, Bama. Purdue dominated their matchup against Tennessee. Edie had 40 and 16. Tennessee's Dalton Knecht put up 37 points, 3 boards, 1 assist, shot 45% from the field, 50 from 3. I think he definitely brought his stock up as far as the lottery goes. Like, I had no idea who this guy was before he played. You see how bad I stumbled over his name. But Dalton does his thing, so I like Dalton. Like, he's a jump shooting fiend. Like, he definitely reminded me of like Klay Thompson or something out there. Like, wherever he planted his 2 feet and got his base, he rose up. That shot was going in. Like, he was definitely a shooter out there. So I like Dalton a lot. But Purdue was able to beat them. I like what they bring. NC State, the Cinderella of the tournament. Like, I like what they bring as well. They dominated Duke. Like, like I told you, Zach Randolph, aka DJ Burns Jr., dominated that paint. Like, it's funny, and in the ACC tournament, Fopowski had a good game against NC State. They still lost, but he still put up good numbers against that team, and DJ Burns didn't play. But, and now in the tournament, DJ Burns was in there dominating. Like, nobody could guard him. He put everybody on their back and just kind of spun them around. Like, DJ Burns, that soft touch, like, he's a problem. He's a tough matchup for them. And Purdue's going to have a tough time with him. DJ Burns might be a problem for Zach Edey. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if NC State were to at least make the game interesting. Purdue has a lot of pieces, but so does NC State. So I think that's going to be a really good game. I'm going to pick Purdue reluctantly, but I like NC State. I like what they bring, and I like that team. I like DJ Burns a lot, and I like what he does. I like that matchup against him and Zach Edey. Zach Edey's a big boy though, and he's strong, and he's mean. He's got a little bit of a dog in him. You know what I mean? And I never discount players like that who are mean. He got a dog on them, and when you challenge them, they bark, and they bark back, and they bark loud. So I like Edey a lot, and but it's going to be a fun matchup to watch. Then you got UConn and Bama. UConn ran through their matchup with Illinois. Like, it wasn't really a challenge for them. Like, clinging in 22 and 10, they went on a 30-0 run to kind of put the game away. Shannon Junior struggled, had 2 for 12 from field, 8, 2, and 3. Like, he had a tough game against UConn. So, and everybody has a tough time against UConn, because UConn plays a really tough game. Like, they have a really tough team. They're really big. They're really long. They're really fast. Like, I like what UConn brings. Bama's tough. Like, I like what Sears brings. I feel like UConn is going to really dominate the Bama in that front line. They're just too big, too strong. Like I said, too fast. Like, Sears is going to hit some shots because he's definitely a shooter from out there. He started the game 0 for 6 from 3 or 0 for 7, and then hit every other shot after that in the second half, and kind of carried Bama against within their matchup in the Elite Eight. So, Bama's got a squad, but I just feel like UConn is going to prevail. Then you got UConn versus, presumably Purdue in a national championship game. It's hard for a team to repeat champions when they bring back a different core or a different team, but I think UConn is going to prove that thought process wrong. Like, I feel like UConn is going to actually repeat this season. Like, they have a big team, they have a strong team. Like, I just like what they bring, and I like them playing against whoever they play in the national championship game, whether that's NC State or whether that's Purdue. Like, I just feel like UConn is going to prevail. So, like I said, this has been a really good season of NCAA basketball. Like, I've enjoyed what I've watched. I've learned a lot from these players, and I look forward to the games going going on Friday. Like, I look forward to, seeing what happens and seeing what these players, do in these, last 2 rounds of the tournament. And, it's just been a good time. I've definitely enjoyed it. All right, y'all know what time it is. Not talked about enough. It's a segment again where we talk about players from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s that were great players, but just aren't talked about enough now. They've kind of been forgotten throughout the sands of time, and I'm here to bring them back, show them some love, give them their flowers, and, make sure we remember these players because these were great players. Rafer Alston, aka Skip to Malou, Queens, street baller, local legend. Everybody knew about him on the streets. He became an even bigger legend as a part of the N1 mixtape tour. Him, Main Event, AO, Hot Sauce, Spider, 50. The N1 mixtape, in case y'all don't know, is basically a mixtape. Like, they were a tour that went around the country and played other players and, the best talent from whatever city they were in, and basically just, played 5-on-5 and got the clown on. Like, they were like the Harlem Globetrotters, like the modern day Harlem Globetrotters. Like, they were a fun team to watch, and the N1 mixtape was a tape basically highlighting those games and a lot of the moves that they were putting out that were just basically unseen if you were somebody living in like Omaha or Seattle or even in California. Like, a lot of these moves you never really got to see. So these players actually got to showcase themselves on these mixtapes, and they were highlighted with music, like unreleased tracks from different artists also collabed on these mixtapes too. So they were really hot, and especially in the 90s and the early 2000s. These were, hot commodities, hot tapes that a lot of players wanted. And 50, AO, Main Event, Spider, Hot Sauce, Skip to Malou was ahead when it came to those players and as a part of the N1 mixtape tour. But they were definitely an impactful group on the culture back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Out of that group, Rafer Alston, aka Skip to Malou, was the only player that took basketball seriously enough that he was actually able to do something with his career. He started off going off to Ventura College, took the junior college route, and it's important because a lot of players thought that the only way to get to that next level was playing at a D1. If you weren't recruited by a D1, then chances are you weren't going to make it to the next level. And Rafer just showed you that there's a different way you could take it. And, if you had the type of work ethic that he had, you could actually do it. And he did it. He went the JUCO route, junior college route, and Ventura College first, and went to Fresno College, and eventually made it to Fresno State, playing under the legend Jerry Tarkanian. And then that team was interesting. Like, they had an interesting story. There was a lot of suspensions, a lot of arrests, a lot of things going on off the court that kind of distracted what they did on the court. Like, they were so bad they were even featured on 60 Minutes, a television show. They were definitely a team that was remembered for more than just basketball. Like, they had a lot going on, but they also had a solid team. Like, they unfortunately went through a really tough losing streak during the course of their season. They didn't qualify for the tournament. They actually went to the NIT, and the NIT they lost in the Final Four. During that time, Rafer still averaged 11 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, shot 40% from the field, 34 from 3. Like, he definitely did his thing that one year he played at Fresno State, and he did enough that he actually entered the NBA draft. In 1998, he was drafted in the second round, pick number 39 by the Milwaukee Bucks. And that's big for a street ball to get drafted, like, in any round, whether it's a lottery pick or the second round. To get drafted is huge. Like, he didn't have to walk on, he didn't have to try out. I mean, he actually played 4 years for the Milwaukee Bucks, and that was important for him because he got to play under Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell was like the OG of point guards at this time in his career, so he was able to learn a lot from Sam Cassell as far as how to be a professional point guard in the NBA, how to carry yourself, how to run a team. Like, he learned a lot from him that I'm sure he was able to carry on throughout his career. After playing for Milwaukee for 4 years, he then signed in Toronto. He played about 40-some games in Toronto, averaged like 9 points per game, nothing really too eventful there. But then he signed in Miami, and in Miami he actually got to start. He played under Stan Van Gundy, played 80 games, averaged 12 points, 4 assists, helped lead them to the 2004 NBA playoffs. They also had Lamar Odom on that team, Caron Butler, and rookie Dwayne Wade. Like, that was the team that eventually got Shaq and won the championship, I think, for the following year after Rafer Alston. But Rafer Alston got a start there. He then left Miami and went back to Toronto and actually got his multi-year deal. He signed, played 80 out of the 82 games, averaged 14 points per game for the Raptors. So, like, really did his thing, started and played. Like, that's what really counted for him and helped him going forward. After playing for the Raptors, he then got traded to the Houston Rockets. In Houston, he's playing under Jeff Van Gundy, younger brother of Stan Van Gundy. So they had a good understanding of what type of player he was. He averaged 13 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, finished 9th in steals with 1.4 per game, and 4th in three-pointers made. And after Houston, he eventually got traded to Orlando Magic under guess who? Coach Stan Van Gundy. Fortunately, Jameer Nelson got hurt that particular season, so Rafer was able to actually get the starting job in Orlando and help lead that team to the NBA Final. They had Dwight Howard on the team, Hedo, like they had a lot of good players on that team, and they ran through the East, beating the Celtics, beating the Cavs, beating the Sixers, all to lead up to the NBA Finals, where they eventually lost to the Lakers, led by Kobe Bryant in 5 games. But Rafer still averaged 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. He was a leader of that team, and he did really well for that team, and obviously they made it to the finals, so he was actually a really good piece for them. Now that following season, Jameer Nelson eventually got his health back and took his starting job back, which, you know, obviously bothered Rafer Alston enough that he actually left Orlando, and that would be unfortunately the last time he, you know, saw the playoffs was in Orlando. But he definitely had a great run there. After that, he played in New Jersey. In New Jersey, got his first career triple-double, but other than that, he really didn't do too much. He played in Miami, went back to Miami, played for them a little bit, and then went overseas and played overseas for a little while, played for a Chinese league, and then eventually retired in the D League as a member of the LA Defenders. His career, 11 years, was most notably known for his work ethic. Like, he was a hard worker, and that showed, seeing where he went and was able to get to in his career. But what he really did, and his biggest impact, was that he, you know, showed players who, you know, like I said, didn't necessarily get recruited by D1s, that they could actually make it to the NBA and actually contribute and be part of, you know, championship teams. And also he proved that, you know, street ball, that culture was actually a legit form of basketball. Like, those moves are actually legit and could be pulled off in the NBA. He was definitely an NBA pulling off street ball moves and shaking players up and doing things that players weren't used to seeing. And a lot of players after him, like Kobe Bryant, Vince Carter, Allen Iverson, they all kind of brought that into the game as well. And they were kind of, you know, led by Rafer Alston. I'm not saying he was the first player to do this, and he's definitely not the first street baller to play, but he's definitely the most impactful one. You know, because he came in as one of the most popular street ballers that we'd ever seen, just based off the annual mixtape tour, and he was able to convert his game to the NBA and contribute and actually be a valuable piece to a team in the NBA. So Rafer Alston was a great player, impactful player, 11 years in the league. You know, he's remembered for his street ball stuff, but his NBA career was just as vital, and I just wanted to give Rafer his flowers. Skip to my Lou, shout out. All right, let's talk about some baseball. Opening week, my favorite time of the year, opening week. MLB is off and running. Now, the opening week of baseball season is like when you plant a plant, like you bury it, the seed underneath the soil, and then you sit there, and after a week, you're not going to see anything. Like, you got to give it some time to actually, you know, cultivate and grow up out the soil. That's what opening week is. Like, there's not too much going on as far as like movement. It's just the opening week of the season, so we get to see players, you know, actually out on the field competing. But a couple things I noticed that to me were kind of, you know, interesting, you know, starts to the season. First off, the Astros signed all-star closer Josh Hader. He's already blown 2 saves to start the season. Within a week's time, he's already blown 2 saves. Like, that's an interesting, you know, aspect to the season for me. Like, I feel like that's something to keep an eye on going forward. The Tigers and the Pirates are off to surprising starts. You know, they're undefeated as of Wednesday, so that's pretty cool. And the Mets and the Marlins haven't won a game yet, so that's a little disappointing. Maybe by Friday, when this podcast actually drops, some of that'll change. But the Yankees are 6-1. They beat the Astros in the Diamondbacks series, won both those series, only lost 1 game, so that's promising. I'm excited by that. Like, the Yankees are definitely off to a good start to start the season, so, you know, baseball, let's go. Yankees, let's talk some WNBA. A lot of players have declared for the WNBA draft, most notably Angel Reese. She decided she's going to enter the NBA draft. Love it. Love seeing Angel Reese come out. Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink, Camila Cardiso, Rakia Johnson, Aaliyah Edwards, JC Sheldon, Charisma Osborne, Elisa Peely, Elizabeth Kitley, all declared for the draft on April 15th. 6 are All-Americans, so, you know, this is going to be a really big draft. Like, one thing about the WNBA is a part of their, you know, growing that they have to do is they gotta create some more teams. You know what I mean? Like, there's not enough teams for all the players that are coming out. The Las Vegas Aces just signed Bria Beal, and she was on South Carolina's national championship team, and she wasn't on a team. Like, she got drafted, but she wasn't able to stick on a team, and now she just finally got signed by the Aces a year later. Like, that's a problem. Like, players should be able to come out of college and be able to play on a professional team and not have to try out and run the risk of being cut from that team. So cities like Miami, Detroit, like, just, they need another team. New York needs another team. LA could use another team. Texas can use another team. Like, there's cities that need more teams for the WNBA. So I see that being a problem that needs to be fixed right away. Another problem I've been noticing is all this backlash that Angel Reese has been getting. Like, she expressed, frustration because she's been getting a lot of death threats and people kind of saying negative things towards her just because she's, a demonstrative player, or she's somebody who talks a little bit of trash on the court, and, people look at that as being a problem. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, there's men out there who talk trash, who talk major yang on the court. Dame with the time, Joe Burrow with the cigarette smoke after a national championship game. Like, we talk trash as men. That's what we do. Like, why can't a woman talk trash and not be, thrown under the bus or look like somebody who's ghetto, or, not somebody who's polite? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand, especially a black woman. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like Malcolm X said, the most disrespected person in America is a black woman. The most unprotected person in America is a black woman. The most neglected person in America is a black woman. Like, you got guys like Emmanuel Acho, who's on TV talking trash about, she needs to, be able to stand the fire, and, you can't talk trash and not be able to, withstand like the backlash that's going to come from that. Like, there shouldn't be any backlash. She should be able to talk trash because she's a competitive player competing in a game. Like, that's what she's doing. Like, to say that she needs to somehow, act differently because, she's a woman, like, that doesn't add up to me. Joy Taylor really said it really well when she said, it's unfair. You know what I mean? And I happen to agree with that. It's unfair. Like, women need to be able to be allowed to express themselves any way they choose. Like, they want to talk trash, they can talk trash. Like, as men, that's what we're able to do. So a woman should be able to do the same thing. So, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Like, it's something that's been bothering me. I've been watching it, and she's been getting death threats, and people are actually like okay with her getting death threats as a result of her talking shit. Like, this is wild. Like, she didn't assault anybody, she didn't steal, she didn't rape, or she didn't murder anyone. All she's doing is competing in the game and talking trash. Like, she can do some of this or throw some ring. Like, that's what she's doing on the field of battle. Like, that's what ballers do. Like, that's what you do when you compete. When you're winning, you talk trash, and when you lose, you get the same thing. When she got fouled out of that game against Iowa last weekend, Gabby Marshall was talking trash to her a little bit, letting her know about it. Like, you got to take that. Like, it is what it is. But to have people who don't play the game, who are just fans or call themselves fans of the game, kind of, having something to say about that, and sending her death threats and, threatening her, making her a villain, like, that's completely unfair. Like, completely unfair. And I just think it's wrong, and we need to do better. Like, as a fandom, we need to do better and treat them equally. Like, if a female athlete wants to talk trash like a male athlete does, that's okay. Let her talk trash. Like, that's just what it is. That's a part of the game. It's a part of the sport. Like, do better. Brittany Griner re-signed with the Phoenix Mercury. 1 year. She was signed last year for $165,000, so she's probably getting around the same this season. She's back in Phoenix. In Phoenix, she averaged 17, 6, and 2 assists, 1 block. Mercury went 9-31 last season, so I think she signed back up to get back because they're a better team than that. I feel like they're going to do better this year with the additions they made. The U.S. national basketball team announced a 14-athlete roster for training camp set for this week up in Cleveland. Ariel Atkins, Shakira Austin, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, Ryan Howard, Sabrina Ionescu, Joelle Lloyd, Kelsey Plum, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Aja Wilson, Jackie Young. Like, they got a squad going into Paris this year. So they're having like kind of a mini tryout this week to figure out who they're going to, officially going to take and add to this roster and who they're not. In February, the U.S. went 3-0 in the FIBA qualifying tournament in Belgium. They beat Belgium, they beat Nigeria, and they beat Senegal. They're a team to be messed with. Like they're pursuing their 8th consecutive Olympic gold this particular year. The national team, they're a dominant team, not talked about enough as far as on the female side. They continue to dominate 8 gold medals in a row. Like that definitely means something. They're dominating the competition. So I look forward to see what they do this summer. Y'all know what time it is. With your fantasy, with your fantasy, with your fantasy. Fantasy championship week is going on. This is about to be the end of fantasy for a little bit because I don't really play fantasy baseball and there's not too much fantasy sports to talk about after this week or these next couple weeks. So let's get it in while we can. As far as pickups to make this championship week, I feel like Miles McBride is a good pickup playing for the Knicks. Hit some threes. He's getting some playing time playing on the Thibs. So I would look at him as a pickup, points and threes. He's a good player to pick up. I like Amin Thompson out of Houston. He's a good player to pick up as well. Houston's starting to streak a little bit. They're finally starting to get their momentum, and Amin is a good player to pick up. Shoots a very solid percentage from the field. Get you some points, rebounds, steals, and blocks, low turnovers. So I definitely like what he brings. And then you got Herb Jones. Herb Jones is a lot like Amin Thompson, strong field goal percentage. He'll get you a 3 here and then, but he definitely gets you lots of steals and blocks and rebounds. He's definitely a good player to pick up for that. But yeah, good luck in the championship. Best of luck. I got a team in the championship as well this week, so I'm hoping we get some good results. But yeah, that's it. Fantasy, holla. All right, sneaker of the week, sneaker of the week, sneaker of the week. This week we'll be concluding the Air Max month. Air Max month is the whole month of March. I missed the first week, so we gotta cover that first week by getting the first week of April. So this week I'm covering the Air Max 90 2.0 Ultra. These shoes is hot. I love these shoes. These are some of my favorite, most comfortable shoes to rock. So these shoes were designed as a part of the Doernbecher Freestyle program, and what that is a partnership between Nike and the Oregon Health and Science University Doernbecher Children's Hospital. And what they do is they get young cancer survivors to team up with some Nike designers to create some shoes and create some apparel, and they've been able to actually fundraise over $30 million as a result of these collaborations. These shoes in particular were designed for the Oregon football team. They designed some uniforms as well. They got the Oregon on the tongue with the slogan, "Win the day, win the fight." They also got the mascot on the footbed as well. But these shoes are mad comfortable. They were designed by 3 young survivors in particular. They actually have them on the shoebox as well. They actually got them on the shoebox and give you kind of explanation of who they are and what they're about. So, these shoes are mad comfortable. I rock them a lot. Wear your shoes, Don't just buy shoes to stock them and never wear them, but actually wear your shoes. These shoes definitely get run. Almost every time I go to Disneyland, I wear these shoes because they're mad comfortable to walk in. So I love walking in them. They're good walking shoes. And these shoes are dope, man, with the yellow accents, the all white, the graffiti on the side. Like, they're some of my favorite shoes to wear. And, these shoes mean a lot as far as, they obviously mean a lot to a lot of people, but they mean a lot to me as well. They're just really dope. They're really rockable. So, if they ever re-release, I suggest you cop a pair. I doubt they will, but these are definitely some dope shoes to have. So the Air Max 90s 2.0s, Doernbecher Oregon Ducks, holla. Album of the week. This week we're talking about Goody Mob. Soul Food came out in 1995. Goody Mob is CeeLo Green, Cujo, T-Mo, Big Gip. Rest in peace, Cujo. Passed away in a car accident. Lost a leg and passed away. But Soul Food was a classic album produced by the Organized Noise. This is a classic album, put Southern rap on the map as far as Southern hip hop being taken seriously. This album was a classic album, a spiritual album, definitely had a message, definitely had a voice. You need to hear this album just so you can understand what Goody Mob's about. Before CeeLo Green went crazy with the Gnarls Barkley stuff, this album represents what CeeLo was when he came into the game. This album represents Southern hip hop to the fullest. Goody Mob, Soul Food. All right, that's the show. Another week, another show. Appreciate y'all for coming out. Like, subscribe, share. Make sure you spread the word how dope this show is. I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all have a good rest of the week. God bless. Peace.